Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Kavinsky's Tutorials. Today I'm looking at TFX Reverb by Ryo Togawa, and recently I reviewed another one of his apps, TFX Echo, which I think is a great delay. I'll put a link to it above. So here we're looking at his reverb. Now, I had some discussion with Ryo about who he would recommend this reverb to and what this reverb is best suited to. And he basically told me it's probably not really like the reverb that you're going to want if you want a very traditional reverb. If you're going to be processing vocals, for example, and you're looking for an extremely naturalistic sound. I'm going to show you later by playing this lovely harp sample that Ian Ruddock, one of the regular viewers of the channel, sent me. I used a piece of his music in another video. Thanks a lot, Ian. So I'm going to let you hear it on this harp, and you'll see, I mean, it can sound really nice. So it's definitely not something that you only have to use on electronic music, but it might be something that is slightly more suited to electronic music and things like that. But in a pinch, you could use it on other things. And I mean, it all depends what you're looking for, really. So one thing about this app is it's got this cool feature called auto size. Look at what happens when I press this. You can see here that some of the knobs have been lit up blue. And what will happen now is that when I move this size button, other knobs will automatically adjust. Some of them will go up and some of them will go down. Like you can see here, for example, the decay knob. Decay value is increasing, but this low pass frequency is decreasing. So his idea here was that you can have a reverb that is extremely easy to dial in. That's a really cool feature, actually, really cool. So we'll look at that in a while. So what I'll let you do first is I'll let you hear it on an instance of Phosphor, which I've chosen specifically because it's a very kind of metallic electronic sound. I think it lends itself well to this reverb. And then I'll go through and explain how to use the reverb, and then I'll let you hear it on this lovely, lovely harp piece. And I've also got real bus on this, and I really like what that's doing to that. I'll let you hear it with and without real bus. Okay, so let's just click here. I want to start with this preset called Bright Space. So what I've got here is Atom Piano Roll. I just played a few notes into that, and I've just got a little 4-bar loop. This is a very useful app. I really like that you can record MIDI live into it and just see it here in the piano roll. Okay, let's have a listen. So first, let's listen just dry. So I'll click this, and that will bypass the reverb, and then I'll bring in the reverb by hitting that in a second. So this is the dry. And now let's put the reverb on. And I'll go through the presets. This is one of the more neutral presets that I think can be used on quite a lot of different sounds. Also these two. And now here we're getting into black hole territory. Huge, crazy Okay, so as well as going through, when I'm going through the main controls that we've got here, I'll also just make it, for the benefit of people who don't know much about reverb, I'll kind of make it a little Reverb 101 and just explain some basic ideas about reverb. So, I mean, if you think about sounds that we hear in nature, we very rarely hear direct sounds that come right from an object directly into our ears. Well, if something's very close, we might get quite a lot of direct sound coming straight from the object into our ear. But what's going to happen a lot of the time is that a lot of the sound that's coming in has first moved around and bounced off various surfaces and so on. So that's the basic idea of reverberation. That's what reverberation is, and then reverb is just the name for the hardware or software or whatever devices that we use to imitate that to some extent. So let's look at what we've got here. First of all, just go through and quickly explain all the knobs. So first of all, we have a low pass and high pass filter here. So this is applied to the incoming signal before it gets processed. So low pass we can use to, if we've got maybe too much high end and it's kind of messy in the high end and a lot of metallic sounds or whatever that we don't like, we could maybe take that out with this. And the high pass one, if the bass end is too muddy, we could maybe raise that a little bit. Now here we have the pre-delay, so the time before the first echoes arise. And this is something that in, for example, larger spaces, you might have higher pre-delay. So we can have a high pre-delay value if you want to emulate a large space or a space with very smooth and reflective surfaces like mirrors and things like that. Here we have an LFO. So this adjusts the frequency and the intensity of the LFO. The LFO modulates the size. So again, here we can use this. A larger size can imitate larger space. Decay. So this, one important concept when we talk about reverb is early and late reflections. So you can see here we have that knob. Let me explain that first. So this adjusts the balance of the early reflections and the late reflections. So the early ones are the sounds that reach our ear very quickly after the object produces a sound, and the late reflections are the things that come later after they've bounced around a lot of other different objects, for example. So the decay adjusts how long it takes for the late reflections to die away. Now I'll let you hear all of this in a minute. Damp. Here we can dampen the high frequencies in the late reflections. So if we want a sort of brighter sound from the reverb, we can have low damp value. If we want a darker sound, we can increase this value. Here we have a low pass filter for the processed signal, right? So this is for the input and this is for the post reverb signal. And here we have a dry and wet knob. Okay, so let's have a little listen again and just look at what some of these things can do. So let's see the filters. So now we've got a very narrow band of input signal coming in. Let's widen it again. Okay, now let's look at the pre-delay. So let's hear the difference between there's different settings on the pre-delay when we're emphasizing early reflections and when we're emphasizing late reflections. Do you hear here how it's almost like a delay, right? I mean, it is a delay, in fact, at that point. Once we get over about 50 milliseconds, we're getting into the realm of actually hearing real echoes, and it's no longer just a reverb. Kind of a bit like a very fast delay. Okay, let's hear it with the high amount of late reflections and less early reflections. So this early and late setting is very important, right? When we're emphasizing the early reflections, we get something a bit more delay-like. When we're emphasizing the late reflections, we get a sound that's much more dispersed. Okay, let's look at another preset. Let's do, say, Warehouse or something. So let's play with the LFO. So remember, the LFO is modulating the size. It's just going to bring a dynamism into it. So the LFO is completely off at the moment because we've got zero intensity. Let's put high frequency, then it's very audible. Okay, let's play with size and decay. And damp. You hear how much brighter that is? It's much darker. I'm trying the low pass filter. Again, this is darker. More dispersed sound, tighter sound. Okay, so there we have our basic walkthrough of reverb. Now let's just see how we can also use this on something that's much less electronic. Okay, so first let's change. First, let's bypass this. And let's change the BPM, because I'm going to put some delay on this harp. Okay, let's rewind, get this back to the start. Okay, here I've got real bus, which I'm going to use to put on a sort of tape saturation sound with some wow and flutter and some echo. But first I'm going to bring the amount down to 0, so that will be not affecting it at all. I'll bring that in gradually later. Check out my video on this if you haven't seen it. Great effect. Love it. Now here, let's select, okay, small club. And first I'm going to turn this off, so there's going to be this is going to be bypassed as well, and bring the dry wet down. And then what I'll do when I start playing, I'll bring this in. Actually, I'll bring the dry wet down. I don't need to turn that off. Yeah, I'll just leave it like that. All right. And then I'll just bring in the dry, bring in the wet when I start playing it gradually. So I'll bring in first the reverb, and then later I'll bring in real bus. I'm basically trying to use real bus to give this a sort of, broken children's toy kind of a vibe, like a music box, like a sort of old school, dirty music box. You'll see what I mean when I get it going. I was going to say like something from a horror movie or whatever, but this harp piece it's not really like horror movie, but this effect is somewhat reminiscent of that kind of feeling. Okay, let's listen. It's still dry. Start bringing in the reverb. Now, I like it with the smaller amount, so I'm going to bring it down. I'm going to bring in real bus. Beautiful. Thank you, Ian, for that lovely bit of harp there. So I just realized I haven't really let you hear auto size, so let's play again, and I'll play with the auto size. But keep real bus on. Those ones are too messy for this. Bravo, bravo. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope maybe for some people who were not too familiar with how a reverb works, that little basic Reverb 101 was useful. Alright everyone, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Take it easy, folks.